Morning, everybody. So, okay. Good morning, everybody. So, let us start our lecture today, and let us do a quick review that we discussed in our last lecture. Okay. So, in our last lecture, we declared a method named sum, and we used two integer type variables within the method header line within the parentheses. These are called argument variable or parameters, and we returned the sum of these two arguments. Okay, and we returned a result. Okay, so these are the called argument variable. These are called formal argument. Okay, when a method is defined with formal argument or a set of formal arguments, we need to provide values for those arguments when we call this method. For instance, when you call this method sum method, okay, then usually a function is called out from a, but a function can call itself. That is called a recursive function. We will discuss maybe recursive function later or in our next course. Usually this is sum method is a method that is being called within my main method is the host or caller of this sum method. Okay, so sum method, what it is doing, it is adding up the two arguments that are provided, for instance 10, and it is returning that sum. So instead of returning like result, I could return something else. For instance, I could return x plus y times 2 is okay. So if I return this method, what it will run, so this method, for instance, in this way here, I can call this method, I call this method in two types, two different ways, okay. First one, call this sum method within print method. It is okay that print method, according to the signature of the print method, we can call a method within print method if only if the method returns a value. Since the method sum returns x plus y times 2, so it is legal and it's permissible. So what it will, let me make it simple, 15 plus 20, 35, and it should return 35 times 2. It should print 70 at the top. And for the second call, it should return 15 plus 10, 25 times 2. This one, it should return 50. So my computer is slow, it is not showing 50. Okay, so this is the return type and this is the return statement. Return statements must be, it is related to return type. Okay, if a function is designed not to return any value, then we would type in void over here. So if I type void as methods return return type, then we cannot return any value from this program, from this method. Yeah. The ID is slow today. Okay, it should get an error. So you see here I put void, so I cannot return any value from this statement. Okay, and another thing is that the return statement must be the last statement. We have some statement with conditions after return. Okay, that's all we discussed so far in our last lecture, and today we want to start from here and we want to So in some languages like C++, C or C++, a method has some different, like return type is something different. Let me program with C++. Okay. I'm sorry. And example one CPP. Okay, function demo example one with CPP. How many of you are taking C++ lab? Okay, that's good. So this is for you, okay? So I like usually instead of write std colon out every time, I personally like using namespace std. Yeah, this is the function. Okay, we want to declare the same function here, same one. Same one over here in sum, this one using C++, okay? C++, although it is an object-oriented programming language, but it's not complete and object-oriented, not a complete object-oriented programming language. So you do not need to put everything in a class. So in C++, we should define the method outside of our main method. Here, let me define int sum like this way. Okay, almost this code is same. And here we want to call this. Let me make it really sum of the two numbers, not to multiply. Okay, see out if I say sum 3, 5. Okay, use of undeclared sum in main. Okay, one thing. C++, it is something different that it's so that before you in C++ also in like if you want to use a function, you must be define it before you call that. So I'm calling this method sum within main method. So this decoration must be above of my int method. Previously, whenever I declared this, thus this one, so it did not work after the main method, so it did not work. But in Java, it worked. You see that in Java and C++, it would work. You see that there was no error. Because the reason is that in Java and C#, we put everything within a class. So as long as your methods or all of your methods are within the class, they are in same boundary. They will work. But since in C++, we do not use a class, we do not have a class over here. So then we must define this, above the place we call it, or there is another way that I could have like this one. I could have a signature of this method. So if I say this one, int sum, okay, int x, int y, this is called the signature of this function. That means I'm defining that, I'm telling that the compiler that I will define a method name sum, and that will have two integer type argument. Okay, now I can call this method. Let me do it. Let me run it. It runs, then I will explain. Okay, so it says hello world. For this line is the hello world. The effect of this line is hello world, and the 8 is coming from 3 and 5. Okay, you notice that, okay, in C++, all methods by default returns an integer type value. Okay, you see even the integer, you say integer int main method has something, but it is by default return something, so I should have returned some value. People usually say if you do not need to return anything, say people say return 0. Since we main method returns something to the operating system, since we are not handling operating system, we are not writing any program to handle our system resource, so it's not a what the main method returns, either 0 or 1 or whatever it returns. It does not matter for us. But for matter for us, you see that for, let us see if we declare even, so it is giving an error because I put int over here. So if I put this way, it should work. In some compiler it used to work. I used earlier other compilers. Okay. Okay, then we understand that if I do not want to return anything from this method, so we need to write void, right? Now return type. So as long as we have a void, then we cannot have any return statement over here. We cannot have any return statement. Then also it is showing error because I need to make void over here. Okay, so as long if a method its return type is void, then you see that it cannot return a value. So this is why it is showing an error. How do I call this method? If a method does not return any value, then we need to call it in regular fashion. Like this way is okay. If we call sum35, it will be working. But if I call, like if I do like this way, cout is more similar to printf in Java, println in Java. It is showing an error here because the reason is that the sum does not return any value. But it does something. It does something. You can also you can say in sum, you could say x cout plus, like people who are taking C++, you see that we have to write this way, plus y equal to like this. Okay, x plus, what is this here? Okay, see. Oh, sorry. What is the error? Still error. Oh, I did not use semicolon. Oh, I have semicolon. So what's wrong? Cout x, then sorry, I worked with C++ like that 10 years ago, last time. Okay. Okay, so you can call this way. You cannot call this way. I could do maybe something like this. Cout. Let me make it simple. X plus y. Okay. If I just print x plus y, then still I cannot call this. In this case, the function sum does not return a value, so this function itself, it does everything. It prints x plus y. So I can call this sum method like this way. So if we run this program, it will print 8. Okay, you see that one thing is said exit status 1. That is the thing we are not discussing here. Okay, so far whatever we have discussed, everybody is okay. You understand that these are the foundation or basic things of a function. Okay. Now let us go back to our Java program, original Java program. I don't need actually this one. Okay. This is our Java program. Just 2 lines. Instead of REPL, if we IDE, like for instance, I think I did mistake this section. Let me put it here for now. Eclipse crashed. Okay, since Java and C# are completely object-oriented programming language, so we have to create a class like function demo is my class name. From next module, from after next week, we will discuss about class. Okay, so this is a program. Just we have our main and within our class demo, function demo class. For instance, we want to add 2 numbers. We want to write a function to add 2 numbers. Same thing we want to do int x int y. Okay. Suppose print int sum equal to sorry. Sum equal to x plus y int x equal to computer is slow today and y equal to 20. These three lines are very simple. Everybody, I think everybody should understand these three lines. What we are doing, we are adding two numbers. Okay, so if I type in sys out in Eclipse, if you type in sys out and then press Control plus Shift bar. Oh, I'm sorry. It is showing my video. This is why system is slow. Showing my video as well as. Okay. Sorry, I did not notice that. Okay, if you type in sys out, then Control plus the space bar, then it will give you system.out.println automatically. So then I can print whatever I can print x plus, then plus 1, then plus is showing plus sign y plus equal, then sum plus sum. So this is called string concatenation. So this one is very, when you do not put anything within double quote, that is this will look for a variable like x. And this is when you put string literal exactly within something within double quote. So this is printed as is. So then this will print plus sign. And then it will print y value. It will print equal sign. And then it will print the value of sum. So for instance, let us think that this is a calculator program. To develop a calculator program, very simple calculator program that will sum up two numbers. Okay, but if I develop a calculator program like this, nobody will buy this, or nobody will like this. Because what it is doing here, if I run this program, as many times as I run this program, it will same result. Right? It is taking same input and it is giving me same output. So this is not a good program. So instead of taking, these are called hard-coded input. In programming language concept terminology, we say hard-coded input, okay? But other people say it's fixed input, fixed value. It's okay. So instead of giving hard-coded input, we know we can system.in to use scanner method to use keyboard to enter any two numbers. Right? We know that, right? How to add? So that is another way to make better, so that we can, instead of giving a hard-coded input, we can give any input that we like. Okay, now for instance, if I, in this program, in this fashion, if I want to sum equal to 0, if I want to add two different numbers, okay, two different numbers, then actually I can do whatever I can do like this way, 100, or I can do like this way. So if I run this program, call, it will give us three different type of results, right? So actually this is a code that we can reuse it again and again in this way, just copying and pasting our code again and again. But this is not a good way to write our program, okay? Since we are reusing this code again and again, so this is a good way that we should declare this, or we should include code as a function. So in some IDE like Eclipse, it allows us to declare a function nicely. For instance, we will select this line, okay, and for instance like this, we will select this lines, whatever we want to, and then we will do right click, and you see there were somewhere refactor. I will select refactor, and somewhere it will say extract method. Okay, so if I select on extract method, then it will allow me to give a name to the method that I want to use for this code. For instance, I want to put sum. Okay, and that's it for now. I want to click OK. And as long as I click OK, then you see that compiler created this method by itself, and it called this method sum method by itself. This is a way that in shortcut in using, if we use some IDE like Eclipse, then we can create our methods automatically. So here in this part, in this method, it says private static, and previously it was public static. Previously, somewhere it was public static. Okay. Now let us understand what is called private or static. Public and or private, this is a modifier. It's called a modifier, accessible modifier. So if a method is declared as private, then that method is accessible only within class. Another class cannot use this private method, this method. Okay. So if I use private over here, then only this function demo I can call this method within this class. So since at this position you do not know about class, I guess, so just forget about this. So primarily we sometimes you will see that we use public. So if is this modifier public, then there is for any other class to call this method. Any other class can call this method. Okay. So we will discuss private public later, and if we do not even give public or private, then that is called by default accessibility. Default accessibility is within the package. When you discuss more about class and object, then we will discuss this. Okay, but for now, forget about public or private, whatever I just told you, remember that. Now that another modifier is called static modifier. Even you see that our main method in Java and C#, our main method was also in public, static. Static modifier means that this method is widely available within the class. It's common for the class, whole class. For instance, if I ask each one of everybody here, what is your institute name? You will say, what is your school name? You will say CSITEd, right? And if I ask you some question, what is your institute name? You will tell us Kansas State University. Everybody will tell us same answer, right? Everybody here has same like common data, common info, like common it's called institute name. So in this case, instead of using or a different variable for all people who have something common, we use a common. That value we can use for all variables of is class. That is a concept of static. Okay, so we use static variable or function to make it accessible through class. I think it is difficult for me to explain static until I discuss class and object. Okay. Usually, but one thing remember that usually a class member is accessible by using the class instance or object. But since we are not creating an object for class, so by using static, we can avoid to create an instance, to use an object, create an object, and use that object to call this method. Or in shortcut, you can remember that if you use static, then you can call this method directly. With that, if we use static, then if you can call this method directly, see, otherwise it will give you an error. If you do not use static, then you have to write the class names. For instance, this class name dot, still it will give me an error. To do something, let me go back and just use static. So now, so whatever we have done, if I use this, call this sum again and again, so as many times as I will call this, it will be executed that many times, right? So these are, I know that this function is hard-coded, it has hard-coded input. Instead of giving hard-coded input, what we can do, we can do two other alternatives. We have two other alternatives to provide value to our method. One of that, you can use scanner to use keyboard when we create a variable. Sorry, when you call a function, or there is another alternative way that we can use augmented function. For instance, instead of creating this variable here, these are called local variables. So then what we can do, we will declare this variable here as within the argument. It is called int x and int y. These are as a parameter. And see that when I declare a parameter, I have to give type for each variable explicitly. Now I got this x y has argument variable. Argument variable is more likely local variable, but there are some differences. I will discuss this in our next lecture. So here, these x and y are argument variables. So what do we have when we have argument variable? When we call this method, we need to provide value for x and y. For instance, x for 10 and y for 20. So then we do not need this. Okay. Now, if I call this method, so then it will give us result for 10 and 20 when we sum. But now if I change this value, it will give us a different result. So whatever that these are called actual parameters and these are called formal parameters. And this is called local variable. This is local variable, and this x are argument variable. This sum is local variable, and there is another variable scope that is called global variable. Maybe next week we will discuss about global variable. Okay, so far today we learned how to write our code like in Eclipse and how to create or refactor our program by automatically making method or function. Right? So now so far we have got the foundation of I think now it is a good time for you to, before you come to our next lecture, I like everybody to download our official slide and data passing for this one, and go through this slide. Try to understand as many as you can. No problem. If you do not understand anything, please bring your question, whatever you need. Next lecture, I think we will be able to discuss these slides so that you will easily understand this. If you have any question, then we can discuss this. I think now if we see our slides, then you will understand almost everything. And whatever new, I will discuss with live program. Now, so far we understand, right? This is the method body. This is the header line. Num1 and num2 are arguments. This is the return statement, and this is int is return type. And we use static modifier so that we can call this method directly without creating any object. And this is public modifier. That means this method is accessible by anyone else. Okay, so far we understood this. Anybody has any questions so far about this? Any element you do not understand from this slide? Yes. Are you talking about my C++ program? Yeah. Okay. The main method returns any value to the operating system, but this sum method returns value to its caller method. So let us make it. That's a good question. Okay. Thank you. So this sum method is a. Okay. So I need to say. This sum method is returning value to its caller. Who will be calling this sum method? In this case, that my sum method is my host of this sum method. Main method is calling sum method. So if I say instead of for this one, if I want to sum up these two numbers, then I should return x plus y, right? If I run this program, it will return me 8. Okay, but say it is giving exit status for this one. I run this one. Okay, so for this one, instead of this one, x plus y, if I return 0, so you know that what will be our output if I return 0? So what will be my output here? It is printing 8 over here. It is printing 8 over here. Don't be misled, because then I need to use this one. Let us run this way. So let me concise this to one line. So you can see whole code. Okay, everything is here, right? So what this method, if I run this again, what will be my output? Is returning 0, right? This method is returning 0, then I am getting output 0. If this returns 10 instead of 0, then I will get output 10. Okay, but here, since I am calling sum method within my main method, I am able to see the effect of this call, right? Since sum method is called within my main method. Okay, so all other method, remember that all other method except the main method returns value to its caller, but main method returns its value. Who is the caller method? Operating system, for instance. So we are not handling operating system here. So we do not see the effect what main method returns, either 10 or 100 or 0. We are seeing the effect what sum method returns. Okay, it should give us any difference if it's a main method. So you said there is called exit status. There is exit status 0 and 1. So 1 it says exit status 1. There are some called error message. Okay. Are you taking C++ lab? Okay, so then you should learn in depth for this one. But okay. Yeah, we need to more study more for the C++ has different return statement is different. By default, if you do not write anything, by default it is integer type in C++. Okay. But that's for now. Please, from next week we will discuss from our. I think hopefully we will be able to go very quickly for our next lecture. Thank you so much, and everybody have.